For those of you that don't know, this whole premise of this channel started is because I had a spiritual awakening. I'm sure that you've gone through this journey like myself. When you chase the external happiness, whether you win an award or you go on a hot date or you had a nice meal, that tends to last for like 2 seconds, maybe 2 days, and then it dissipates, right? It doesn't last. And you go back to the normal level of whatever that you feel, level of emotions. And so for me, I would classify my spiritual awakening as a rude awakening. I have no understanding of it. I wasn't looking forward to it. I would be more in the category as like, what is happening to me? Am I having a midlife crisis? The outer life is good, especially if you're looking at my life from outside. But internally, like, it just wasn't enough. It's like life is so difficult. And I was looking for an escape. Today, I count it as one of my greatest blessings because the unfoldment that came after, the revelation that came after as a result, I'm so glad that it happened. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those dark thoughts and dark moments in my life. But I remember like how rough the journey was, how challenging it was, how disruptive it was, and how it drove me from 3D to 5D. And what I really wanted to share as well is how to integrate from the 5D back into the 3D. Welcome to the Awakening Entrepreneur podcast. On this episode, I'm going to talk about my own personal spiritual awakening journey, how disruptive it was, and how it drove me from 3D to 5D. And what I really wanted to share as well is how to integrate from the 5D back into the 3D. That's pretty much what's been happening for me over the last month or so. For those of you that don't know, this whole premise of this channel started is because I had a spiritual awakening. Prior to my spiritual awakening, I've never heard of spiritual awakening. I don't meditate. I don't look up to angels. I don't understand about the laws of the universe, nor do I have any interest in looking into it. I was like an entrepreneur. I was just a go-getter, achiever. I was focused on how to master my external circumstances so that I can find joy and happiness. Actually, it's more happiness, not joy. Happiness from my external surroundings, be it my financial well-being, my businesses, my relationships, my friends, or playing games, doing sport. All those was traveling. All those are just using the external to bring me happiness. But I'm sure that you've gone through this journey like myself. When you chase the external happiness, whether you win an award or you go on a hot date or you had a nice meal, that tends to last for like 2 seconds, maybe 2 days, and then it dissipates, right? It doesn't last. And you go back to the normal level of whatever that you feel, level of emotions. And so for me, I would classify my spiritual awakening as a rude awakening. I have no understanding of it. I wasn't looking forward to it. I would be more in the category as like, what is happening to me? Am I having a midlife crisis? That's probably more of the accurate description. And I guess I was blessed. I was guided by the universe. It's like they're leaving breadcrumbs of clues for me to find my way. Sometimes it could come in the form of a spiritual master. You happen to see one of the videos or read one of the books or attend one of the events. Sometimes it's a conversation with one of a friend. Sometimes it's listening to a song and then suddenly the lyrics of that song, it just hits home to you. It just pieces right through your heart. Go, wow, that's the message I needed to hear. So I've had all of that plus more that eventually gave me a much deeper understanding of what spiritual awakening is. And I know that some of my podcasts have covered this in more depth, so I don't want to spend this particular podcast to talk at length about it, but just an overall view of, if you haven't heard my story before, the outer life is good, especially if you're looking at my life from outside, but internally, like, it just wasn't enough. It's like life is so difficult, and I was looking for an escape. And yeah, had suicidal thoughts, and even attempts as well. And as bad as it seems, like today I count it as one of my greatest blessings, because the unfoldment that came after, the revelation that came after as a result, I'm so glad that it happened. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those dark thoughts and dark moments in my life. So fast forward, I got connected to wisdom from all over different places, books, videos, friends, gurus, my own intelligence. But I remember like how rough the journey was, how challenging it was. I consider myself as someone that's pretty well read and that's always chasing growth, personal growth, and to understand more, to become a better version of myself. A lot of personal development stuff, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, started development when I was like 14 and I'm 44 now. So for 30 odd years, I've been going through this journey, learn from the best of the best. But yet I was like so unprepared for this. Considering I even like went to India multiple times on a spiritual quest. And it was like one night, I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I just woke up and a message came through like, Gary, do a podcast to share your journey and also like interview other people that's gone through this journey. Because there will be other people like you. It's like, what is happening to me? They will feel quite lost as well, especially the people that's coming from the entrepreneur profile, the go-getter, the achievers, the people that wanting to generate more, achieve more in this world, master the external circumstances. You could be a voice, you could relate to them. And secondary reason, you don't know what you are learning until you have to teach someone what it is. So through this channel and through all of your support, you actually became a conduit to help me deepen my learning on a lot of the topics, like the law of one that I spent quite a bit of time learning over, the Tao Te Ching, and just the work of a lot of different people I respect, a lot of awakened masters that I've learned from. So the universe called me out to do a podcast. I've never had any interest to do a podcast. I don't know how to do a podcast. And at 3 o'clock, I typed a message to one of the Facebook group that I belong to. And I told them, you know what, I'm going to do a podcast. And if you feel called to, and have gone through this spiritual awakening journey, and you feel called, like reach out to me. So maybe that was like 3:30 in the morning. And by the time I woke up, there's a whole bunch of people that responded. So that was the start. And it's been going for maybe like 2 years now, and deliberately didn't market to people using aggressive marketing strategy, even though that's what I've studied and spent my time doing over the last 20 years in digital marketing. This time I just wanted to just let things unfold. The earlier version of myself prior to spiritual awakening is that, how do you make a difference to this world? You need to go out and help all these people. In fact, you need to help hundreds of millions of people. My goal was to be able to bring happiness, success, and fun to 500 million people. But throughout my awakening journey, I started to realize that, you know what? Everything is perfect despite the imperfection that we see from our human lenses. People dying, wars going on, lockdowns happening, people cruel to each other. Should these be happening from our human lenses? No, of course not. Unless you think like a Hitler, then you may say yes. But when I started to awaken, I just started to understand life is just an experience. Every moment of life is just an experience. Take you watching a movie, for example. Titanic is one of the greatest movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and who's the other actress? I'm sure that you guys would type in the comments to remind me. But yeah, it's a great movie. But will you tell your friends that, hey, there's a sad part, don't watch it? Or will you watch some of the action movies and you say, hey, that's cruelty, that's people killing each other, don't watch it? No. Why do we watch movies? Why do we not just stare into a wall with nothingness? Because we enjoy on the wave of emotion. Everything is an experience. Why do we go to restaurants and try different cuisine and all the different type of food instead of just eating plain rice or potatoes or bread for our whole life? Even if the nutrients is you can get it all from potatoes. Would you eat potatoes for your whole life and nothing else? Would you drink water your whole life and nothing else? maybe for the 0.1% of you that are really special. And some people just Bavarian, they just breathe on oxygen. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Some people just have water diets for days, months, years. I'm not at that level, but yeah, kudos to you. All powers to you if you can actually achieve that. For most of us, we wanted to experience life. We wanted to experience the flavors of life. That's why we try different cuisine. That's why we order different food from the menu. That's why we drink different beverages, so that we can taste the differences. So despite some of the things that in our human eyes that we think that it shouldn't have happened, and I get it. Should we hit another person? No. Should we steal from another person? No. Should we attack another country? No. But life is not that simple. Just even looking at my kids, what is right, what is wrong? When someone abuses another person, when one of my kids abuses the other person, verbal abuse or physical abuse, you may say that person is wrong. But what if the other person did something to trigger the other person? And what if the other sibling did something to spite the other person first? Or what if some other extenuating thing, some circumstances that cause them to just lose their cool? Same as like countries going to war. I'm not justifying any of these actions, but it's not that simple. A lot of the Western thinking that I've grown up conditioned with is deductionism, like science, like what is this one thing that causes this illness? What is this one cause that causes a fight? But in a lot of the Eastern philosophy, or in the quantum physics, like there's so many variables, so many factors that contribute to this one present moment of what is happening right now. Why am I pausing right now? You can say that I lost my train of thought, but what if it's the universe asking me to just pause and let you absorb? I can only guess. For the human brain, you would say that that's imperfection. Gary, you don't leave such a long pause like during a podcast. But we have a tendency of labeling things like good or bad, yes or no, right or wrong. This is what 3D is. When you start to see things from more of a higher dimensional perspective, like from a 5D, you start to transcend a lot of these issues that we're looking at. When you have the experience of seeing the world beyond the 3D perspective, whether it's through meditation, breath work, plant medicines, you start to see that all the life issues is actually a non-issue, especially for all the people that have like near-death experiences, or people that's through the plant medicine journeys have had similar experiences. The afterlife is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful experience. It's much easier to enjoy that space than being on 3D. But yet, why do we come here in the 3D? Because why do we eat chili? Why do we smack our hand to feel pain sometimes? Because it is an experience. Everything is just an experience. Everything allows us to experience the flavors of life. So part of my awakening journey, like from this entrepreneur, go-getter, achiever, I got called to like slow down. Gary, this is like your sabbatical. You don't need to rush. And what you do as an achiever entrepreneur is always like outcome driven. Like I need to be this, be efficient, and looking at opportunity costs. What am I going to do with my time, and scheduling your time in? I need to just get more out of each day. I need to keep doing stuff that makes a difference to my external world. I need to help a lot of people. But in my spiritual sabbatical that I've been called to slow down, it called me to start doing gardening that I didn't find any enjoyment prior to my awakening. And even in the early stage of my awakening, it's still like, why am I doing this? Am I wasting time? For 9 years that I've stayed at my home, I've never mowed my lawn. I didn't even own a lawnmower. And during my spiritual awakening in the last year, I bought a lawnmower. I started mowing the lawn. And what's more interesting is that from someone that doesn't enjoy mowing the lawn to now like someone that's actually enjoying it, the slowness of life, enjoying every present moment, irrespective of what we do. I started to find joy in scrubbing the toilets, on, off, and seeing the little bits of dirt disappear from your toilet bowl. Don't worry, you don't need to invite me to your place to clean the toilets. Just my home is enough for me. But there was still a big part of my entrepreneur identity, my ego self. You're an entrepreneur, Gary. Like, should you be like spending a half an hour trying to get rid of the pest, the aphids on your kale leaves, which I don't even enjoy in the hot sun? Or should you be like doing something else that's generating additional income and growing a business or something? But I got called to, again, just enjoy the slowness. And it didn't make sense at the time. But slowly, when I kept doing it, it's like Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, wipe on, wipe off, wipe on, wipe off. Eventually, I started to enjoy it. I started to see the wonder, the wonderful teaching that it gave me in the slowness, in doing the seemingly the mundane. The universe called me to start homeschooling my children. I don't have the patience for them. There are a lot of great parents out there that have the patience and have the passion to teach their kids. Despite going through this spiritual awakening journey, I'm still learning and practicing. But definitely when in my entrepreneurial days, I don't have the patience and still working on it. But it called me to teach the kids, spend time teaching them, spend time managing to make sure that they are on track. And eventually I got taught by the universe, my kids are actually schooling me. They're teaching me skills, teaching me to let go, teaching me to be patient, to enjoy the slowness, teaching me to control my emotions, or at least be more conscious of my emotions. So for quite a few years, that was my lifestyle. A lot of surrendering to things that logically may not make sense. Should I do this or not? But when your heart is calling you, there's a little bit of a signal you're getting, beep, 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 do it anyway. That's surrendering. It may not make sense at the time. So there was a lot of surrendering. And with the surrendering and just responding to the call of the universe, you just see like miracles after miracles, whether it's like unexpected incomes or just richness in your life that you never expected. What's happening over the last few weeks is pretty much like 5 years now. Like I've been in a retirement or at least semi-retirement phase of my life, that each day I wake up, get out of bed, what do I feel like doing? And just respond to the call. And most of the time I'm still homebound with the lockdown and everything that's happening. But nor did I feel a big call to like go on adventures and go and get fit or do some sport. It's just very slow paced. But in the last couple of weeks, it was one Friday afternoon, it called me to, hey, go on LinkedIn and check out what jobs is available. And throughout the last 1 or 2 years, there has been a little spike of calling to, it would be great to try different experiences and work in some jobs and show your kids about making income. Because I think like, especially my kids, I don't think they've seen me working. And I wanted to show them work can be like enjoyed, not endured. But I couldn't find any work. I applied to be an Uber delivery and some of these other like food delivery places, at least 3 different places. But I couldn't get into any of them. I even bought an e-bike just for the delivery. For whatever reason, I didn't qualify. I considered doing other jobs, like maybe becoming an Uber driver and driving people around. Not all the time, but at least try it once or twice. But again, like I didn't qualify. I looked at the roles for a marketing person. Maybe that would be cool. But I worked out a lot of the skill sets. It's very specialized. And nor was there a strong calling telling me this is it. This is the company I want to work with. But 2 weeks ago on a Friday, they asked me to jump on LinkedIn and look for jobs. And I found a few that sounded pretty interesting. And it so happened that 3 of them are all like startups. Prior to that, it never hit me that, hey, maybe you could look for like startup related businesses to work with. But somehow, I don't even know how it popped up as startup, like jobs recommended for you. So I just clicked on 3 of them. And within a week or a bit more than that, I started full-time work. I've never worked full-time for anyone since ever. I've always had my own business from the university days. But I remember like talking to my best man at my wedding. He recently just came back overseas into Australia. So he needed to find new work and he found a new job. And he was telling me like what the work involved. And while I was listening to him like in my semi-retirement mode, I thought that's pretty cool. If you could use your skill to help someone in need and make a difference, that's cool. So coming from before awakening, like how much am I going to get? Like the thinking space is completely different. And for whatever reason, the business that I end up joining forces with, the person that interviewed me, I just got calling, Gary, go help this person. And I told this person like with or with no job, like I'm here to help you. I just got calling to help you. And in fact, like with the pay, like it doesn't matter what you pay me. Well, it's not, it doesn't matter. Like there's certain things that will be good, but it's not about the money. Like I would have helped him regardless of whether I officially joined his company if he wanted me to. But it was extremely like uncertain. Like, am I going to enjoy it working for another company? I've never done it in my whole life, especially coming from my retirement phase of my life and coming up back full time and working in a startup. Startup is extremely intense, can be extremely intense, especially a fast growing one. Are you gonna like enjoy it? Are you gonna like find that it's not for you after a week or two? So there was a lot of uncertainty and question mark around it. But again, like it's the whole surrender process I've been going through since the spiritual awakening journey. Is like just surrender to it, just trust in the grace, trust in the universe. And that's what I've done. And these days, like rather than thinking that I want to help like hundreds of millions of people, it's, you know what? I'm more clear, or I am clear on what my purpose is. And each one of us have a slightly different purpose. My purpose is to help humanity wake up to who they truly are beyond just the human experience. We are a divine creator within us. Our soul, it's inside the body. If you look at all the people that have like all the case studies of little kids that's just a few years old, they can remember the past life of someone that's from the other side of the world with details that they know that nobody else could have known except for that person. How would they know all this? Because we're souls, that we're spiritual beings having human experiences. Part of the awakening journey also many things challenging for me anyway. Having a lot of stuff around, clutter, it really triggered me. Sometimes talking to people that's not talking, just having small talk, it doesn't energizes me. My partying days of like partying, drinking, that doesn't resonate with me anymore. So I was so disconnected, or well, not so disconnected, but I didn't find a passion. I didn't feel the calling to connect. It wasn't natural for me to connect on that domain when I'm more like gone all spiritual and seeking spiritual wisdom and like focus on every present moment, meditating and conscious breath in the 5D and just enjoying the presence. So when I come back to the very hectic, busy world of startup and entrepreneurship, this time around, I guess the lesson for me, I'm guessing, because I can never know for certain, I'm feeling and guessing, is how do you bring all these lessons that you've learned and integrate into the everyday life? More so for yourself to experience what running a business can be like from a 5D perspective. How would you run a business? How would you operate business differently? But other perspective that I wanted to share was that, you know how I said I wanted to help hundreds of millions of people? These days, is if all you do is to raise your own level of consciousness, that automatically your aura, your energy, your vibration will radiate to people around you, of everyone on this world. If all of us just raise our level of consciousness, a lot of these wars and cruelty, slavery, these things that's happening, they will automatically come to a stop. So does that mean we shouldn't help people or don't need to help people? Well, if you feel called, like fantastic, go help people. It's a great feeling. It's a blessing to be able to help people. But what I'm saying is that if you go and help people like myself, prior to the awakening, I now realize that I went to help people from the space of scarcity, from a space of lack. You know what? Unless I'm this kind person, successful person, and being able to help people, then I'm not going to be enough. Then I'm not going to be as loved. But once I got to the 5D, I understand, you know what love is? Love is everywhere. Love is in the tree. Love is in the air. Love is in the ocean. Love is in everyone. Love is in everything. There's just a lot of the times through the fear, the other side of love, the fear that is being expressed, we just can't see the love. But when you can see it from a higher lens, it's like you watch a movie, an action flick, you may have violent scenes in it. But all of that, it comes out of the love of the director, the script writer, the producer, the love and passion of creating a wonderful movie for us to enjoy. We are all the creator. Everything that's been created in the 3D in this world is out of love. So if all I do is just to continue to bring awareness in all that I do, Michael Singer, like from the book Surrender Experiment, talks about this. When you're sending an email, even if it's just a one-word response of yes, are you responding with consciousness, or you like unconscious when you're sending it? Are you just automatically replying, also reacting versus responding? How do you bring more consciousness to everything that you do despite the busyness of running a business or being in business? How do you learn to love and appreciate everything around you despite business can be very cutthroat at times? Even if it's not within your own business, sometimes your customers or potential customers can respond very harshly. Sometimes it could be a supplier. Sometimes it could be someone in government. How would you respond? It is a lot more, I think one of the monks in Tibet or somewhere I talked about, it's easier to find joy and peace when you're like meditating every day in the temple, in the bliss of nature. But the real spiritual warriors are the ones that's out there in this chaotic world. And if we can find peace, and if you can find peace, despite what's going on in this sometimes loony world, lunatic, crazy world, you've done well, even if it is just for a moment. Why I wanted to share with you my experience. I don't know what's going to happen with this podcast. I'll just leave it with the calling of the universe. And through you, the message I get from you, all of you, that the channel, for whatever reason, even though I haven't made content for the last, or haven't made content as frequently as before, somehow the channel is just seems to be growing faster. If you feel called to ask for certain type of content, feel free to reach out and comment, and love to always respond to every single one of your comments. I just really enjoy spending time with all of you and appreciate you listening to me. It's such a blessing to have this channel of communication with a tribe of fellow awakening souls. So until next time, namaste. Sending love to all of you. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do and share to anyone that you think can help. Love you.